Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Lana Levante, and welcome to my living room. I'm here to uplift, support, inspire, and empower you to be the best version of you you're here to be, because that's what we do. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you're enjoying this series of readings from the Untethered Soul. Tonight we continue on with the spiritual path of non-resistance, chapter 16, if you have a copy of the book and you want to read along. One should view their spiritual work as learning to live life without stress, problems, fear, or melodrama. This path of using life to evolve spiritually is truly the highest path. There really is no reason for tension or problems. Stress only happens when you resist life's events. If you're neither pushing life away nor pulling it towards you, then you are not creating any resistance. Because pushing and pulling, resisting or fighting is exactly the same energy. It takes the same amount of energy to avoid something as it does to also face it. It's always so important to just recognize how you utilize your energy and how you take responsibility for the energy you are bringing to a situation, to a space. Because you're also just as responsible for creating your experience through that energy you're emitting. You are simply present. In this state, you are just witnessing and experiencing the events of life taking place. If you choose to live this way, you will see that life can be lived in a state of peace and ecstasy. What an amazing process life is. This flow of atoms through time and space. It's just an eternal sequence of events that take form and then instantly dissolve into the next moment. If you resist this amazing force of life, tension builds within you and gets into your body, mind, and spiritual heart. It is not difficult to see the tendency towards stress and resistance in daily life. But if we want to understand this tendency, we must first examine why we are so resistant to just letting life be. Can't you just let life be what life is? Why are we so complicated? What is it inside of us that even has the ability to resist the reality of life? If you look carefully inside yourself, you will see that it's you. That's humbling. The self, the indwelling being, that has this power. It is called willpower. Will is a real force that emanates from your being. It is what makes your arms and legs move. They don't just move randomly by themselves. They move the way they do because you assert will to make them do so. You use the same will to hold on to your thoughts when you want to concentrate on them. The power of self, when it is concentrated and directed into the mental, physical, or emotional realms, creates a force, and we call that force will. That's what you use when you try to make things happen or not happen. You are not helpless in there. You have the power to affect things. And let me pause here because I don't know how many of you have read Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins. It's on my list of highly recommended books because power exists innately within each and every one of us. We don't have to exert it to have it. It rises up from within. It is part of our natural being. But unfortunately, we have succumbed and adopted this idea that power is something that has to be forced, or that forces are power. And there's a lot of force in the world that is not the true version of power. So people will say, the powers that be, when in reality, they're forcing their will. So interestingly that he uses and chooses the word of force in here, because the will is the only thing that can force itself upon anything. When we really get down to it, the power comes from your heart. It is the heart that is your energy center. It's your battery that electronically, electromagnetically, energetically pulses out, sends out and emits those frequencies, your frequent keys, that energy that influences your life in the natural flow, versus when your force comes from the seat of the will. Totally different. We'll go a little deeper, I'm sure. It's amazing to see what we end up doing with our will. We actually assert our will in opposition to the flow of life. If something happens that we don't like, we resist it. But since what we're resisting has already taken place, what good is it to resist? If your best friend moves away, it's understandable that you don't like it, but your inner resistance to that event for years to come does not change the fact that they did. They indeed moved away. So it does not do anything to the reality of the situation. The fact is, it cannot even be argued that we're resisting the actual situation. For instance, if somebody says something that we don't like, obviously our resistance won't stop them from having said it. What we're really resisting is the experience of the event passing through us. We don't want it affecting us inside. We know it's going to make mental and emotional impressions that will not fit with what's really going on in there. So we assert the force of the will against the influence of the event in an attempt to stop it from passing through our hearts and minds. In other words, the experience of an event does not stop with our sensory observation of it. The event also has to pass through the psyche at an energetic level. This is a process we experience every day. The initial sensory observation touches our mental and emotional energy pools, creating movements in the energy. These movements pass through the psyche, much like physical impact ripples through water. Amazingly, you actually have the ability to resist these movements of energy. The assertion of willpower can stop the energy transfer, and that's what creates tension. So he's saying it in a different way, in how we are creating the blocks in ourselves by resisting and allowing what has just occurred and happened. We are over here in this temper tantrum. I'll call it the inner temper tantrum. It's like your inner child gets really upset because it's been agitated and you're like not tending to it and just saying, hey, it's going to be okay. And it's the resistance that gets it stuck. Like instead of allowing and accepting and acknowledging what just occurred, you're inside trying to make sense of it, trying to change it in some way, shape, or form, rationalize on this crazy mental level, like if I just don't accept it, it goes away. It's cognitive dissonance to deny what has occurred, assuming that's going to fix the internals. So essentially, we're not allowing. We're trying to make it something it wasn't. And cognitive dissonance is supposed to stop at our child level. But so many of us adults are in denial of reality, of what's really occurring around us, because we think that's going to make us feel better inside. You know, if I don't see it, if I don't look at it, it doesn't exist. Yeah, how's that working for you? It's pretty exhausting. And you can wear yourself out struggling with the experience of a single event or even a single thought or emotion. And you know that all too well. Eventually, you'll see that this resistance is a tremendous waste of energy. The fact is, you're generally using your will to resist one of two things: that which has already happened, or that which hasn't happened yet. You are sitting inside resisting impressions from the past or thoughts about the future. Think of how much energy is wasted resisting what has already happened. And since the event has already passed, you are actually struggling with yourself, not the event. In addition, contemplate how much energy is wasted resisting what might happen. Since most of the things you think might happen never do, you are just throwing your energy away. How profound. Again, where attention goes, energy flows, and so we're getting hijacked by our thoughts as we allow it to steal the vital, biological, life force energy that's meant to maintain, sustain, and heal this body, which is our temple. This is our vessel. This is what carries us through life. And so many will neglect the body in favor of the mind. And then assume that their exhaustion has to have been something they did, when it was simply a waste of energy and attention they were throwing away. And it's just like I say, you pay for your experiences because your thoughts are energy. And where you allow them to go, past or future, is essentially taking you out of the gift of the now. This moment right here is where you need to be present. You want to reclaim your power? Get present in the moment. Come back to the breath, because when you're in the breath, when you are present with the breath, that is where you become present in the moment. That makes you the gift of the now. It's your presence that creates the present. Pay attention to the words, people. All you need to know is in the languaging. Choose them wisely. So, again, life is only as complicated as we make it. We get to choose, and choosing is your superpower. How you deal with your energy flow has a major effect on your life. If you assert your will against the energy of an event that has already happened, it is like trying to stop the ripples caused by a leaf dropped into a still lake. Anything you do causes more disturbances, not less. When you resist, the energy has no place to go. It gets stuck in your psyche and seriously affects you. It blocks your heart's energy flow and causes you to feel closed and less vibrant. This is literally what is happening when something is weighing on your mind, or when things just get too heavy for you, mentally and emotionally. And then it affects you physically. This is the human predicament. Events have happened, and we continue to hold this energy inside of us by resisting them. Now, when we face today's events, we are neither prepared to receive them nor capable of digesting them. Remember, we take in data through our five senses. We digest not just through our belly, which is really our second brain, but through our five senses, how we take in that information and how we process it, and whether it touches and triggers upon our old traumas. This is because we're still struggling with our past energies. Over time, the energies build up to the point that a person becomes so blocked, they either blow up or shut down completely. This is what it means to get stressed out or even totally burned out. And this is where we go back to, again, your nervous system is your circuitry. So if you don't have a strong nervous system to handle what life throws at you or what you experience in life, then you will get fried out. Just like circuits in a motherboard on a computer or electrical circuits. We have to maintain a strong foundation, a strong nervous system, strong breath, heart, lungs, all of it is connected. So we have to be more discerning and pay attention to our body's wisdom, because it's always going to tell you long before the mind figures it out. There is no reason to get stressed out. There is no reason for blowing up or shutting down. If you do not let this energy build up inside you, but instead allow each moment of each day to pass through you, then you can be as fresh as every moment as you would be on a stress-free vacation. It is not life's events that are causing problems or stress. It is your resistance to life's events that is causing this experience. Since the problem is caused using your will to resist the reality of life passing through you, the solution is quite obvious. Stop resisting. You create your problems and your stress, people. It's not happening to you. It's your resistance to what is happening that is occurring, that causes the buildup, the tension, the dis-ease, discomfort, is from you dissing what is going on around you. You're dissing it in favor of your BS. It doesn't match your belief systems. It doesn't make you feel comfortable. You're being rubbed and triggered. Stop dissing yourself. Just confront what is going on up in your own monkey mind, and all that dogma and all those belief systems need to be challenged. So that's what life is doing, is constantly challenging what it is you are clinging to. Remember, there's that word clinging again. We need to practice non-attachment. And in this chapter, it is the spiritual path of non-resistance, which essentially is non-attachment, because they're the same energies. Clinging or pushing and resisting. If you are going to resist something, at least have some rational basis for resisting. Otherwise, you are irrationally wasting precious energy. Be willing to examine the process of resistance. In order to resist, you must first decide that something is not how you want it. It's not the way you like it. Plenty of events make it right through you. Why did you decide to resist this one? Something inside of you must have a basis for deciding when to simply let things pass through and when to assert willpower to either push them away or cling to them. There are a billion things that don't bother you at all. You drive to work every day and you hardly notice the buildings and trees. The white lines on the road don't stress you out at all. You see them, but they pass right through you. Don't assume that it's that way for everyone. Someone who paints street lines for a living could get very stressed out if those white lines were not even. In fact, they could get so stressed out that they refuse to drive down that road anymore. It's clear that not all of us resist the same things or have the same issues. This is because we don't all have the same preconceived notions of how things should be or how much they should matter to us. It's our BS, people. Very simple. Our BS is based on our experiences, our perceptions, our environments that we grew up in. All your experiences become a story. Everything you've witnessed, everything you've adopted, been influenced, indoctrinated, all just different words for the fact that you are clinging to the way things should be. You need to challenge your BS, people. If you want to understand stress, begin by realizing that you carry around with you your own set of preconceived notions of how things should be. It is based upon these notions that you assert your will to resist what has already happened. Where did you get these preconceived notions? Let's say seeing azaleas in bloom stresses you out. Surely that doesn't bother most people. Why does it bother you? All we need to know is that you once had a girlfriend who grew azaleas, and she broke up with you when they were in bloom. Now, every time you see azaleas in bloom, your heart closes. You don't even want to go near the things. They just create too much disturbance for you. These personal events that take place in our lives leave impressions on our minds and hearts. Those impressions become the basis for asserting our will to either resisting or clinging. It's no deeper than that. The events may have happened in your childhood or at various points throughout your life. Regardless of when they happened, they left impressions inside of you. Now, based on these past impressions, you are resisting the current events that are taking place. This creates inner tension, turmoil, struggle, and suffering. Instead of seeing this and refusing to allow these past events to run your life, you buy into them. Believing they have real meaning, you put all your heart and soul into either resisting or clinging. But in truth, this entire process has no real meaning. It just destroys your life. The alternative is to use life to let go of these impressions and the stress they create. In order to do this, you have to become very conscious. You have to carefully watch the mental voice that tells you to resist something. It literally commands you. I don't like what he said, fix it. It gives you advice and tells you to confront the world by resisting things. Why do you listen to it? Let your spiritual path become the willingness to let whatever happens make it through you, rather than carrying it into the next moment. That doesn't mean you don't deal with what happens. You're welcome to deal with it, but first, let the energy pass through you. Allow it to make it through. If you don't, you will not actually be dealing with the current event. You will be dealing with your own blocked energies from the past. You will not be coming from a place of clarity, but a place of inner resistance and tension. If you've been listening and you've heard some of my other videos beyond this book, I've expressed and talked about this is a trauma response. This is a stress response when we come from the place of pain. And the moment you get triggered and you don't allow that energy to pass through you and you react to the situation, you're essentially reliving each and every one of your past unhealed traumas in that moment. And it's why we say when we become emotional, we're actually going to be irrational in the moment. Because when you're emotional, you're not in your right mind. You're out of your mind, which is one funny way to say it, but it's a truth. The truth is, emotions are not your rational mind or your heart. They're your old, unhealed, unmet needs. Your traumas come up and you're operating from the place of pain. When you become aware of that, being in awareness itself is giving you the key to doing things differently, to take a deep breath, slow down, observe the situation, observe what you're feeling, tap into your heart, tap into your inner child. Okay, where is this coming from? Who is observing this? Where do I feel it in my body? What memories are arising? What's the message in this experience? What's the lesson that's coming up? What is being brought to surface and served up for me to address? Because I didn't express something that got suppressed, now it's time to address. We're returning to the past. The past is actually showing up in the present, and it always is until we confront it, we accept it for what it was in the moment that it happened initially, we acknowledge it, and all of that, you're allowing it to be what it was and not trying to change it, rationalize, create a story around the whole situation. You are giving yourself that opportunity to heal it. Whether there's a catalyst of another person, the situation, or even you going within and recognizing, this doesn't feel so good right now. but now I see the need to sit with it. It's always an opportunity for growth. Whenever you're getting charged, triggered, or disturbed, that means there's your opportunity to heal something. Feel it, so it will reveal it, and then you can heal it. This is part of the process of healing thyself, is acknowledging and recognizing all of your stuff. You have to own it all, or it's going to own you. You're going to be operating from pain in everything you do until you are willing to sit in it. Sit in your stuff. To avoid this, begin dealing with each situation with acceptance. Acceptance means that events can make it through you without resistance. If an event takes place and is able to make it through your psyche, you will be left face to face with the actual situation as it truly exists. Since you are dealing with the actual event rather than stored energies stimulated by the event, you won't assert reactive energy from your past. You will find that you are able to deal with daily situations much better. It is actually possible to never have another problem for the rest of your life. This is because events are not problems. They're just events. Your resistance to them is what causes the problem. But again, don't think that because you accept reality, it means you don't deal with things. You do deal with them. You just deal with them as events that are taking place on the planet Earth and not as personal problems. It's really important to recognize that when we observe, we're set back. And this is why we meditate. So every time you sit in meditation, you're slowing down to observe even deeper. You're able to witness the thoughts. And even the more you meditate, what you'll find in life is you start to notice as if you're watching a slow motion movie. This is my personal experience for the years that I've been doing this. I literally watch everything happening in the slow motion mode of wow. Ooh. And I'm able to observe what would have been an old reaction. Oh, that's kind of cool. That doesn't bother me. I'm able to see maybe I get triggered and then I sit back and go, oh, look at you. What's that about? Like, or even my mind when it starts to go in judgment mode, comparison mode. It's a powerful thing. That's a superpower in itself, to be able to be so aware of your surroundings and what's going on in your internals. It's all connected. And we're meant to be in awareness of it all. Because when you are that aware, then you're also tapped into that intuitive nature of yourself. Really cool stuff. You will be surprised to find that in most situations there's nothing to deal with except your own fears and desires. Fear and desire make everything seem so complicated. If you don't have fear or desire about an event, there's really nothing to deal with. You simply allow life to unfold and interact with it in a natural and rational manner. When the next thing happens, you're fully present in that moment and simply enjoying the experience of life. There are no problems. It's all about no problems, no tension, no stress, and no burnout. When the events of this world make it through you, you have reached a deep spiritual state. You can then be conscious in the presence of whatever takes place without building up blocked energies. When you attain that state, everything becomes clear. In contrast, everybody else is attempting to deal with the world around them while struggling with their own reactions and personal preferences. When a person is dealing with their own fears, anxieties, and desires, how much energy is left for dealing with what's actually happening? Stop and think about what you're capable of achieving. Up to now, your capacities have been constrained by constant inner struggles. Imagine what would happen if your awareness was free to focus only on the events actually taking place. You would have no noise going on inside. If you lived like this, you could do anything. Your capabilities would be exponential compared to what you've ever experienced. If you could bring this level of awareness and clarity to everything you do, your life would change. So, as your path, you take on the work of using life to let go of your resistance. Relationships are a great way to work with yourself. Imagine if you used relationships to get to know other people rather than to satisfy what is blocked up inside of you. If you're not trying to make people fit into your preconceived notions of what you like and dislike, you will find that relationships are not really that difficult. If you're not so busy judging and resisting people based upon what is blocked inside of you, you will find that they are much easier to get along with, and so are you. Letting go of yourself is the simplest way to getting closer to others. The same is true in your daily work. Daily work is fun. In fact, it's easy. Your work is just what you do with yourself during the day while you're spinning on a planet through empty space. If you want to be content and enjoy your work, you have to let go of yourself and let events flow through you. Your real work is what is left to do after all else passes through. Once the personal energies pass through you, the world becomes a different place. People and events will appear different to you. You will realize that you have talents and abilities you never saw before. Your whole view of life will change. Every single thing in this world will look like it's been transformed. This happens because as you let go in one situation, it affects your clarity for other situations. For example, let's say you're afraid of dogs. You come to realize that other people aren't afraid and they make it through life. Since you've been afraid your whole life, you suffered while others didn't. That suffering has no meaning, so you decide to work with your fear and relax when you see a dog. The way to work with resistance is by relaxing. That act of relaxing through your personal resistance not only changes your relationship with dogs, it changes your relation with everything. Your soul has now learned how to let disturbing energies pass through. The next time somebody says or does something you don't like, you automatically treat it the same as you did the fear of dogs. This process of relaxing through resistance is beneficial to everything in your life. This is because it directly addresses how to keep your heart open when it is trying to close. Deep inner release is a spiritual path in and of itself. It is the path of non-resistance, the path of acceptance, the path of surrender. And I added, the path of non-attachment. It's about not resisting energies as they pass through you. If you have difficulty doing this, don't get down on yourself. Just keep working on it. It's the work of a lifetime to become that open, that complete, and that whole. The key is to just relax and release and deal only with what's left in front of you. You do not need to worry about the rest. If you relax and release, you will see that it puts you through tremendous spiritual growth. You'll start to feel an enormous amount of energy inside of you awaken. You will feel much more love than you've ever felt before. You will feel more peace and contentment, and eventually nothing will ever disturb you again. You can truly reach a state in which you never have any more stress, tension, or problems for the rest of your life. You just have to realize that life is giving you a gift, and that gift is the flow of events that takes place between your birth and your death. These events are exciting, challenging, and create tremendous growth. To comfortably handle this flow of life, your heart and mind must be open and expansive enough to encompass reality. The only reason they're not is because you resist. Learn to stop resisting reality And what used to look like stressful problems will begin to look like the stepping stones of your spiritual journey. They're just events. They're just experiences. It's us who puts meaning, attaches our perceptions, we project, we resist what doesn't fit our model, our mold, when it's all just neutral. Every experience is simply a neutral situation. It's us that attaches the meaning, that clings to the way things should be. I know saying that may be challenging to hear in a lot of cases, and as we look through our lives and we see around the world things that have been what we consider atrocities, happenings to children, to people, the world at large, wars, all of that, which essentially wars are just what I consider adults throwing temper tantrums, playing bullies when they don't get their way, when their will is trying to be imposed upon others. And other people suffer as a result. But as it was said in the last chapter, you can be like Gandhi in a prison and still make your life a game and turn it into fun. It's a change, it's a flip of the switch in our own minds. Our minds want to seek justice, validation, because based on our past, we have some unhealed trauma where we're still trying to prove ourselves worthy of being lovable, worthy of accolades, appreciation, whatever you want to fill in the blank. But it's all perfect, and it's all God's plan. Whether you want to admit it or like it or not, doesn't matter. You don't have to agree with me. I have my moments, we're human. We're going to attach meaning to things until we recognize that the meaning is only a matter of clinging, that labels are limitations, and that when we're not allowing, we're not flowing, we're not living, we're not growing. Life is meant to be in flow, energy in motion. It's when we hold on to something, resist something. Again, remember, those are two energies that are equal. But when you're neutral, you don't have that push and pull. There is no resistance or fight. It's all technically a fight when you're not neutral. When you're non-attached to the outcome of situations, you can be pleasantly delighted and surprised by life. Let life serve you. Stop trying to fight it, because every experience is supposed to be the gift of your life. But all these conditions and all these programs and all these stories and beliefs that we have adopted aren't even our own. We've been influenced, infiltrated, indoctrinated, whatever words you want to use. That's not who we are. Those thoughts are not who we are. We are the observer, the witnesser, the indwelling being. We are souls having a human experience. And in essence, we should be following and allowing the flow of our soul to carry us in this life. There's a bounty of beauty everywhere you go. And how present you are will recognize the gift that you are receiving or giving. In essence, your presence, it gifts others as well as it's a gift to yourself. So when you become present and you allow your essence to be seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched, felt. 5 senses, people, we're extrasensory beings for a reason. I always laugh about it, but if anybody ever tells you you're too sensitive, you just say, you'd know if I wasn't sensitive. And I guarantee every single person needs to be woken up to the part where, yeah, of course I'm sensitive. That's a gift. That's a gift of having 5 senses, that we are extrasensory beings. And when someone's insensitive or doesn't exhibit sensitivity, isn't it ironic? The gaslighting that kind of occurs where someone will tell you you're too sensitive, and it's like you go on the defense, and then you need to be reminding them of the absurdity of the statement. It's not a fact. It's an opinion. You know what opinions are like, people. Everyone's got one. I'd rather bring humor into the situation than this, fight and this flight or the freeze or the fawn. Because we are meant to dance with each other energetically, play with each other's energy more. Like, bring in that inner child that wants to play. Like, to me, that's one of my gifts that I bring to the world. You don't know me personally, but I'm here to play and to remind people that we're all adults who still want to play. That our children, our inner child, most of the things that are invented in the world are really a result of a childhood desire to create that thing. That as we are younger, we want to build, we want to invent, because we're creative, and that's what we're here to do, is to create and improve upon the old. We're supposed to improve and create the new. We're not supposed to be stuck in the old. This is a travesty of life right now, people, is that every generation is meant to build and improve upon the last. The old saying, I come from a generation of respect your elders. And I do believe in that. I especially believe in it when your elders have demonstrated that they are respectable. Because over the course of my life, I saw a lot of elders. They were just like grown-up children that were a bunch of bullies, and they didn't deserve respect. But then you see where we've also lost that. And there's another extremism of disrespect and entitlement. And it's across all generations. So you can't blame a generation for anything. But what you can recognize is humans being good humans. And that needs to be rewarded by you also being a good human. And there's a saying that I've said to people before, especially over the years, where I've lost people in my life where I felt I was doing good favor. And something that apparently isn't taught anymore is when someone does you a good favor, does something nice for you, it's also good behavior to return the favor. Now, from my generation and previous generations, it was, one good deed deserves another, or it's an expectation that if someone does something nice for you, you should do something in return, kind of as that favor to show your appreciation for them doing it. Because when it boils down to it, if you want people to continue to show up and serve you, you have to appreciate them and show them the same kindness they've shown you. This is getting lost in our cultures, in society lately, that people can be in survival mode and not realize they're taking. And it is very possible in a lot of cases, people don't realize what they're doing is they're doing the taking and the entitlement as a result of their unmet childhood needs, that they feel fear, because that's coming from a place of fear, where you're afraid your needs won't get met, or that you have to hoard, or that you have to take because there might not be enough for you. These are all trauma responses. And at the same time, when you recognize someone is acting out of their heart, it's because their cup runneth over. They feel full to give, but they will feel depleted if it's not reciprocated and replenished. So this is the law of reciprocity. Again, if somebody is doing something for you that you really, really do like, if you're not showing appreciation, I guarantee at a certain point they'll stop doing it. And if you don't reinforce that good behavior, then it will be wasted upon you. This is another example of wasted energy. We have to be more selective and discerning with where we're harvesting and pouring our energy into people, places, or things. So if you recognize that someone does something for you, you want to reinforce it if you want them to continue. If you do not, they will recognize that you've been a wasted investment, and that will be their lesson, and a very wisely spent one, because we never really waste anything. Our attention, our energy is going to be reciprocated at some point. Whether it's in the lesson of overgiving, where we didn't value ourselves enough. Sometimes we have to go through those experiences. It doesn't make it good or bad. It just is an experience, an event. But if you're someone who's on the take, you might want to step back and go, why is it that I fear that there's not enough for me, that I have to take? That's the force versus the power, power versus force. If you are acting out of love and your cup runneth over, see, again, this is where that balance, the circuitry, you got to strengthen your nervous system, all these different things. When your cup runneth over and you can just pour from it, you should also feel that you're replenished at the same time. That is that law of reciprocity. So energy needs to flow in both directions. Or, in the end, we deplete ourselves. And so this is part of life's lessons, is we are just all learning whether we're coming from love or from fear, because that's where we're always going to be acting out of the heart or out of the head. Fear is the head, heart is love. Heart is genuine power. Force comes from the will of the head. The fear of not being enough, having enough, the fear of lack, the lack. We're always expanding, that's when the heart is open, or contracting, that's when the heart is closed. It's also the space of the lungs. These are always happening at all times. Expansion is breathing in. Expansion, expansion, grow, 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 emit that energy, and then contraction is, exhale. And then there's a pause in between where there's little glimmers, little wisdom nuggets. But it's again about getting present and recognizing that you are the gift. It's your presence that you gift the world. And the more present you are, the more you get a return on your investment of you. Invest wisely with your energy, and it has to start with you. Because what you give to others is going to be seen from that place of love or fear. Because again, remember, energy is felt. You may not think people feel it, but they feel it. So if you're coming from a place of love, it's definitely going to be felt. And just as equally, if you're coming from that heady space of fear, they're going to feel that too. Because we all affect one another. So own your energy when you walk in a room and set it the intention, the seed planting in intent. And you're going to leave an impression no matter where you go, but make sure it's a good one. Make sure it's a positive impression, one that also helps others grow, because the more open your heart is, the more you're going to open other people's hearts. The more closed you are, the more you're going to meet resistance, and you'll attract the same energy there too. All right, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. This was chapter 16, and we've got just a few more chapters to go. 17, 18, 19. Let me know in the comments what stood out the most for you. Smash the like button, click the notification bell. Sharing is caring. Be kind and subscribe. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Have an amazingly blessed day, night, wherever you are. I see you. I feel you.